Alright, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Pauper. I know we should be getting into a modern deck right now, but if you haven't heard, Channel Fireball is doing a really cool thing right now. They're actually doing Pauper events at their GPs and whatnot, so that's pretty cool. So I thought instead of going into modern, let's get back into Pauper this month, and yeah, let's show a new deck. We're going to be playing Rakdos Control in Pauper. My favorite archetype. I love Rakdos Control. I just haven't played it. I haven't played it in a long time, actually. So, yeah, we're going to do that. We're going to get into a Rakdos Control deck in Pauper. Basically make people upset with us, kill all their stuff, make them discard their hand, and, you know, just kind of be a bit of a douche. But, hey, it's alright. So, first off, you know, pretty standard stuff here. This is kind of what you expect from a Rakdos Control deck. We're playing 4 Lightning Bolt, 3 Chainer's Edict, and 3 Terminate. So, yep, this is basically Rakdos Control. This is kind of what we're doing. Lightning Bolt can kill pretty much anything in the format, with the exception of, you know, maybe some Gurmag Anglers and stuff. But it kills stuff, and alternatively, you can bolt your opponent to the face and, you know, win the game potentially. Chainer's Edict, not as good as Terminate when you cast it, because you can't choose which creature dies. But it does have flashback, so you do get card advantage. You can recast it later in the game. So that's fantastic. And then Terminate, that's a classic. 2 mana, destroy anything. It can't be regenerated. Yeah, so basically we just keep our opponent's stuff off the board. Don't let them play anything. Don't let them keep anything in play. Just kill everything. And next up is our discard package. And this really highlights what we're looking to do with this deck. You know, we're trying to generate card advantage. That's what you do with any control deck. And in the case of Rakdos, instead of drawing cards, you just strip your opponent's hand away. And this is kind of what we're doing. So we're playing 3 Duress, 4 Wrench Mind, and 4 Blightning. So Duress doesn't give us any card advantage. It just lets us strip out, you know, potentially problematic stuff. You know, counter spells are nice to hit with this. Anything that our opponent is using to combo with, just anything that's going to give us a problem. Wrench Mind and Blightning, though, are fantastic. 2 mana for Wrench Mind to make our opponent discard 2 cards is just such an awesome turn 2 play. I mean, suddenly it's turn 2 and your opponent's down to 4 or 5 cards already. It's just really satisfying. They do have an out, and that they can discard an artifact card. That is kind of a problem in Pauper because many of the top decks do run artifacts. You know, Tron runs artifacts, Affinity is an artifact deck, and even all the blue control decks, a lot of times if they're mono blue, they will run Spire Golem. So there are a lot of artifacts. We do tend to sideboard this out, but you know, it's just a fantastic play on turn 2 to just discard 2 on turn 2. Suddenly your opponent's down to 4, maybe 5 cards. And then Blightning comes in turn 3. That's another 2 cards and 3 damage. And, you know, it's very easy for your opponent to be down to 1 or 2 cards on turn 4 with nothing in play. Meanwhile, we have a handful of Lightning Bolts and Terminates. And if they did get anything into play, we're going to kill it. And now your opponent's living off the top of their deck as early as turn 4, maybe 5. So that's just kind of what we do. We just, you know, kill everything on the board, strip our opponent's hand out, and then, you know, you have to start top decking stuff. And, you know, we're going to be gaining cards too here. We'll look at that, but it's kind of fantastic. It's very satisfying. Not necessarily the most nice thing to do, but yeah, I don't know what it says about me, but this is my style of deck. I love Rakdos Control, and yep, that's what we're doing. So a couple of creatures we're going to be playing. We're going to be playing Chittering Rats, 3 of those, and 3 Phyrexian Rager. So this is the same idea. Chittering Rats, when it comes into play, it makes your opponent put a card from their hand onto the top of their library. So it doesn't get rid of that permanently, but it does basically time walk your opponent. You know, sometimes it's not as big of a deal, but other times, if you're living off the top of the deck, if you're really looking to top deck stuff, and your opponent plays their Chittering Rats, that can be kind of devastating, especially if they're already ahead on the board. It's basically like a free turn. And remember, we're going to be stripping our opponent's hand away. So they're going to be desperate for cards, and then we're going to force them to put, you know, maybe the last 1 card from their hand onto their library. Basically, we get a free turn. That's kind of the idea there. Phyrexian Rager, on the other hand, it just, you know, lets us draw a card when it comes into play. 3 mana, 2/2, nothing exciting. We lose 1 life and draw a card when it comes into play. So it's just more card advantage. That's what we're looking for. We get a 2/2 basically for free. Still get our card. Kind of fantastic. works really well in this deck. We're also going to be playing 3 Sign and Bloods for more card advantage, 2 mana, draw 2 cards, just trying to get ahead of our opponent on cards here. The 2 life is negligible, we're going to be stripping our opponent's, hand out. We're going to be wiping out their board. Damage is going to come in small increments from our opponent, so the 2 life, not a big deal. Definitely want those cards though. Want to keep drawing cards, and this does it for us. And then following that up is our finishers. We're going to be playing 3 Gurmag Angler and 3 Grey Merchant of Asphodel. So both of these cards are classics in Pauper. You're probably familiar with them. Gurmag Angler, basically, 1 to 2 mana for a 5/5 most of the time, especially in this deck because we're playing so many spells. We're casting those Wrench Mines and those Blightnings as quickly as possible. If our opponent does play stuff, we're killing them with lightning bolts and terminates and whatnot. So this easily comes out on turns 4 or 5, usually for 1 to 2 mana maybe. And again, we've stripped our opponent's hand. We've wiped out their board, and this is just going to clean up, finish the game. Grey Merchant, on the other hand, is a fantastic way to just get back in a game that we're behind on. It's a 5 mana 2/4, deals X damage, and we gain X life equal to our devotion to black. I mean, it's very common for this to hit for 3 to 5 damage usually, gain 3 to 5 life. So when we're behind, Grey Merchant is just the best top deck ever. It can also just very easily win the game for us. I mean, there's times when the board's locked up, we've got maybe 4 or 5 creatures in play. We have a lot of double black with Chittering Rats, for example, and Grey Merchant itself is double black. It counts itself, it counts its own mana. So, it can easily come in, deal 7 to 8 damage, and win the game that's locked up on the battlefield. That shouldn't happen too much with this deck because we're killing stuff a lot, but if the battlefield does get locked up, Grey Merchant, fantastic for, just winning the game out of nowhere. And one final card that I'm kind of testing, I'm kind of so-so on this. There's times when it's really, really good. There's times when it's very not good. But we're going to be playing a single copy of White of Precinct 6. So because we were playing a creature control deck, a board control deck, because we're in Rakdos Control, the graveyard is usually filled with a lot of creatures. So White of Precinct 6 is a 2 mana 1/1, gets +1/+1 for each creature card in our opponent's graveyard. The problem is there are a lot of decks that don't play a ton of creatures, like Burn, for example. There's also just, graveyard removal is just really strong, and just Magic in general. There's relics, Tormod scripts, and, all that stuff. And Bojuka Bogs, it's really hard to do anything graveyard based in Magic, because the graveyard hate is just kind of excessively strong. I mean, when a land card can wipe out an entire graveyard, it seems a little bit excessive. So it's kind of hard to get this going. It's one of those cards that we have 1 copy of it, so we're not going to see a ton of it. There's times when it can come into play, just be a massive creature for 2 mana, and that can win us the game. And if our opponent's not playing creatures, the likelihood that we will see it in game 1 is not so likely, and then we can always just strip it out and sideboarding. So it's fine. It's just kind of a thing that I've been kind of playing around with, and I know I was thinking about taking it out once I went into a recording, but I don't know. I kind of want to leave it in for these games and kind of see what it does over the next few games. That's the deck though. That's the main board. We're also going to be playing 13 Swamps, 6 Mountains, and 4 Bloodfall Caves. So, pretty simple mana base. It's Pauper. I mean, nothing too crazy here. Though I will say that the Bloodfall Caves can definitely be swapped out for Evolving Wilds. They do kind of the same thing. With Bloodfall Caves, we gain 1 life. With Evolving Wilds, the benefit of that is that we get a card in our graveyard for Gurmag Angler. So if you're trying to get those anglers out really fast, Evolving Wilds is probably the better choice. I just kind of like the 1 life for burn decks and stuff, which is what our deck is weakest against, just because so much of our deck is useless against burn. All of our creature removal spells don't do anything when they aren't playing a lot of creatures. Although I do notice that a lot of burn decks are playing way more creatures than usual. With the Thermal Alchemist and the Archer from Amonkhet. What's the name of it? You know what I'm talking about, right? So there's been a lot more creatures in burn than usual, and that's really good for us, because if they waste a card playing a creature and we just kill it, that puts us in a pretty good position to win that game fairly easily. But some burn decks don't run as many creatures, and I don't know, I just like the Bloodfall Caves. The Gurmag Angler is going to come out when it comes out, and it's usually going to win the game. I don't care at what stage. I don't care if it's turn 4 or turn 6. So long as it's out and we have a handful of removal, I'm kind of okay with it. So Evolving Wilds is definitely better for Gurmag Angler. I liked the 1 life from Bloodfall Cave. I thought it had more utility against certain decks that were bad against, but that's up to you. Next up, we're going to look at the sideboard really quick. We have 1 Duress, 1 Chainer's Edict, and 1 Terminate. So basically stuff we already have in the deck that we can, kind of adjust the ratios as we see fit. We're also going to be playing a single copy of Geth's Verdict, which is kind of like a bonus Chainer's Edict that could be replaced with Victim of Night 2 if you want. Either's fine. We're also going to be playing White of Precinct 6, an extra one, so if that does end up being a really good option, we can switch it in, that's fine. We have an extra one. We're also going to be playing 3 Electrickery, so yep, good against tokens, good against blue control, fairy control, stuff with lots of fairy miscreants, stuff like that. Just a nice board wipe. We're also going to be playing 3 Smash to Smithereens because affinity and whatnot. And then we're going to be playing 3 Alms of the Vein. This is fantastic against Burn. I said before, our weakest matchup is Burn just because so much of our deck just gets turned off against Burn. So we can pull out those Chainer's Edicts and whatnot. For Alms of the Vein, deals 3 damage, gains 3 life. It basically, again, it kind of time walks our opponent's turn. They play a Lightning Bolt, they deal 3 damage to us. Our turn, we deal 3 damage back to them, but then we gain that 3 life back, so it just basically wipes out their turn, which is kind of nice. It also wipes out that card. A Burn deck loses when it runs out of cards. So if they draw more than 3 or 4 lands, they lose, basically, and this just eliminates one of their cards, which is fantastic. It dramatically increases our chance of winning against Burn, so that's why that's there. And yep, that's the sideboard. So that's it, guys. That's the entire deck. Pretty simplistic. We're Rakdos Control. We're just killing stuff. We're controlling the board, stripping our opponent's hand, and then coming in with a big old Gurmag Angler and winning the game. That's the plan. Pretty simple. It makes our opponent not happy with us. It's frustrating when it's, turn 3 maybe, and you've got 2 or 3 cards in hand. It's not very fun. It's kind of just not nice. But it's been fun to play. At least. I've been having fun playing this thing. Anyway, this is our deck. It's about 7 tickets. This is what we're going to be running. We're going to be playing 5 games with this in the tournament practice room. And as always, if you want to see those games, check the description. There should be a playlist. And I will see you in the first match.